The ocean was never silent. That was the first lie humanity told itself, because silence suggests emptiness, and the Atlantic Trench was anything but empty. The research vessel Ardent Vale drifted above a scar in the earth, so deep that sunlight had surrendered miles above it. And yet the sonar began detecting movement at a depth where pressure should have crushed bone into paste and steel into dust. Dr. Elias Marrow stared at the screen as a mass the size of a city shifted beneath them, not swimming, not drifting, but unfolding, as if something enormous had been sleeping in a curled position for centuries and had finally stretched. The crew laughed at first, blamed equipment malfunction, tectonic shifts, thermal vents, anything logical. But logic began to erode the moment the water temperature rose by 3 degrees without explanation. Then 5. Then 12. The ocean around them began to pulse faintly, not visibly, but rhythmically, like a heartbeat too slow for panic, yet too steady to ignore. That night, every crew member dreamed the same dream, standing alone on an endless black shoreline, while the tide whispered their names in voices they recognized from childhood. No one admitted it at breakfast. Scientists don't admit shared nightmares. But when the submersible descended the next day, tethered to the ship by reinforced cable, the cameras caught something that broke whatever wall remained between reason and terror. Not a creature, but an eye. Not spherical, not biological in any way they understood. A geometric abyss that rotated inward, folding light into itself. The feed cut to static, but before it died, a signal transmitted upward, not audio, not visual, a pattern, a repeating sequence that synchronized perfectly with the rising pulse of the sea. Crew members began bleeding from their noses. Instruments failed one by one. The ship's compass spun uselessly. And then the water did something oceans do not do. It inhaled. The surface around the vessel sank, just slightly, forming a shallow basin, as if the Atlantic itself had taken a breath. Elias realized then that trenches were not wounds in the earth. They were mouths. The sonar lit up again, showing the mass ascending without swimming, without propulsion, simply displacing reality as it rose. The pressure sensors went insane. The tether snapped. The submersible vanished into blackness. But the worst part was not the rising shadow. It was the realization that it was not coming toward them randomly. It had aligned itself directly beneath the ship, choosing them. The pulse became louder, no longer metaphorical. The hull began vibrating in rhythm. Crew members clutched their heads, hearing whispers in languages that felt older than air. One technician screamed that the ocean floor was opening in layers like petals. Another began laughing uncontrollably, repeating, "We were never meant to map it." The sky above remained calm, cruelly indifferent. Stars watching as the Atlantic split open beneath the Ardent Vale. Then the water surface broke, not with a splash, not with waves, but with a smooth, impossible emergence of something vast and angular, a structure of living darkness reflecting no light. It did not attack. It did not roar. It simply rose high enough for the crew to see that it was not alone. All across the horizon, identical shapes began surfacing in perfect synchronization. The nightmares had not been warnings. They had been invitations. Elias understood too late that humanity had mistaken the ocean for territory when it was habitat. The structures began emitting the same pulse, now audible as a low-frequency hum that made teeth ache and bones tremble. Every electronic device rebooted simultaneously, screens flooding with the same geometric I symbol. Coordinates flashed, not random, but global. Coastlines, major cities. The tide began receding unnaturally fast, pulling water away from shores thousands of miles away in the middle of the night. Somewhere, sirens began wailing. But on the Ardent Vale, there was only stillness as Elias whispered the final truth into the broken recorder. It was never sleeping. It was waiting for enough of us. The last transmission cut as the ocean exhaled, and the world's coastlines disappeared beneath a black tide that did not crash, did not foam, did not rage. It simply covered everything like a closing eyelid.